Full suite of Figured you do business today.
She was there. Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the March 5th, 2024 Housing Advisory Board meeting. Thank you, and we're glad to have people in the audience as well. Everyone should have an agenda in front of them. If you don't, I'm sure Ashley or Ellen would be able to provide one. In fact, I think there are extra ones over there. So if any of you in the audience want to have agendas, they're right up there. So the way the agenda is structured right now, we have Michael going to be in charge of the minutes. So were there any comments on the minutes from the last meeting, December 5th?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, I think we're good. By the way, Alan mentioned that Audra is going to run a couple minutes late, so she will be here, but she's on the way. Okay, so that's taken care of. Next on the agenda is the election of the chair and the vice chair for this year, 2024, and I'm going to turn that over to Ashley.
Good evening. I was getting ready to say good morning. Somebody say good morning earlier.
You could do it too. Somebody would.
Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. So I'm here to facilitate the chair and vice chair process. So for voting clarity, the vote tonight for chair and vice chair is appointed by the mayor from the members of the board, and it's confirmed by town council. Okay. The chair and vice chair will be, this is for calendar year 2024. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start this process. Do I have an appointment for any recommendation for a chair? I will open the nominations.
Very good, well done.
And now we will, is there a motion for chair?
I'll nominate Phil to resume his role there.
I thought you were my friend.
I just don't want it.
You don't want to be alone.
Okay. Is there another nomination? Spice it up a little bit. I'll wait. Any other nominations? for chair.
Comes with a free gavel.
Gavel, water, drink.
All the water
But
you
not
can
the
drink.
cup.
Okay. One more chance for chair. I'm going to close nominations. Is there there's a nomination as Phil for chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. So now we're going to do the same process for vice chair. Currently, Rhett Fussell is our vice chair, our current vice chair. He can run again, or we can select a new role, leadership role. So can someone appoint a member of our
I'd like to
vice chair?
nominate Rhett Russell to continue as vice chair.
Okay. Is there another nomination? Come on,
Do
y'all.
we need a second? Because if so, I can second.
Any other nominations for vice chair? No? No? Everybody's happy? Okay. I'm going to close the nominations. So we have continue Rhett as vice chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Passes unanimously.
All right.
Congratulations, guys.
Are there any questions for me before I go? Any questions? We're all good? Okay. All right, I will pass it on to Alan.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ashley.
Yep, we're ready for you.
Alrighty,
Nominations for the expired terms.
that's correct. Okay. Alright. Hope everyone is doing well this afternoon. Happy New Year. I guess this is the first meeting of the new year for this board, so glad to be before you all. As you hopefully have read in your agenda packet, this is an appointment discussion regarding 3 expired terms that expired at the end of last year. Those terms would be the seats of Jacob Rogers, Paul Kane, as well as Seth Friedman. As most of you know, Mr. Friedman resigned from his position, so that leaves an empty seat. Mr. Kane and Mr. Rogers are seeking reappointment. However, we've also got some new applications. So at this time, we'll kind of do this in phases. So we'll start with any discussion regarding the 3 seats, either reappointees or new appointees. Start with discussion. Start there, and then we'll close that discussion, and then we'll move into nominations for those 3 seats. Is there any questions before we begin?
So we're going to go through all the applications, right?
Or the ones you choose to go through?
Okay,
We don't need to go through, unless that's the pleasure of the board, I don't know that we need to go through each name, but
Okay.
should you want to do that, we can. So I'll turn that over to you all.
okay. All right, so I'm really pleased to see that we have, I think, 9 new persons of interest. Maybe that's not the right phrase to use, but
It might be.
so, and they're listed in alphabetical order.
They are.
So, is anyone interested in speaking to any of these people of interest?
Well, so before we do that, can we just have general discussion? Is that what they
Yes.
intended?
I was hoping to say a couple words too about it.
Okay. I just have some questions, and that is,
Sure.
are we essentially reporting out who we think the top 3 are, the top 5? Like, are we giving a slate of individuals to mayor and town council that we think are all qualified to fill those 3 seats?
Correct.
Or are we only saying these are the 3 people we recommend and no one else. Because to me, that's a little short-sighted. I mean, to me, it'd be like, hey, can we give a top 5 slate or whatever? I'm just asking, right? So.
Sure. So I wouldn't necessarily say recommend a bunch of folks, because then that's going to be challenging to pick through. I think that all of the applicants here obviously possess some sort of ability and skill set related to affordable housing. So some more than others, obviously. But I would say at a minimum of 3. I would suggest no more than 5, certainly. But yeah, I would say at a minimum of 3.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to say too, is that probably not 3, but maybe 4 or 5, and give the mayor some discretion.
Sure, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'd like to say a few words. One, I find this process incredibly inappropriate. I've never seen a board that doesn't have the authority to appoint members actually have discussion about it, since I feel like it's a kind of disrespectful to the town council. They were elected to make the choice, and kind of feel like it's taking that from them. But I'm happy to be a part of the discussion.
Can I add a little bit of perspective, and then I'm going to look to Alan and Ashley and Audra for just a little bit of additional context. So the way the process used to work way back when was that the mayor came up with a list of names, whatever way the mayor came up with a list of names, and presented that to the town council, and pro forma the town council would go, we consent. Couple of councils ago, the council changed that process to have more of an input in that process. And then there has been additional change to engage the boards in which are being served, in which folks are serving on, to have some level, so that the boards had some level of input. Again, recognizing we are an advisory board, so like the mayor and the council can ultimately decide what they want to do. But if I'm wrong about any of that, please weigh in. But that has been how we have gotten here. I believe that the council is considering recommendations for how they should continue that process, and I encourage you to weigh in on that.
That is accurate. Yeah, and I think some of it, what some of this transpired is you had members that were currently seated that were not engaged in the discussion, and there were either changes being recommended, and they were not a part of that process. And so we had several advisory board members ask, why were they not included as part of that process, whether that be from a chair or vice chair recommendation or just a appointed seat. And so this is in an effort to make sure that the process is transparent and we're including all voices in the process. So I hear you that you feel it's inappropriate, but I hope that hopefully it provides some level of transparency to the process.
I think the idea is the more input, the better. Mm-hmm. So, having input from, obviously we see the applications that people have brought in. We see, how people have served on the boards, and, just making sure that, as much input as we can get is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I had a couple of comments that I wanted to make, take privileges of the chair. So I want to first say that we definitely need board members, housing advisory board members, who are familiar with construction, rehabilitation, and development businesses. They're really going to be and have been key to implementing new approaches to providing more housing choices to both our residents and our essential workers. We really need board members who are what I would say less interested in the status quo and more interested in bringing us creative new housing solutions especially for our lower income neighbors. We need board members who can identify builders and developers who have a heart for those neighbors, those lower income neighbors, and are willing to try out a variety of new solutions. we also need members, board members who are willing to commit their time to attending meetings and fully participating in our board meetings. And this is a discussion that Tina and I had fairly recently. We need board members who have time to review materials provided before meetings, offer comments, and apply their expertise to the task of adding to our housing choices. We need team players who support the vision, values, and recommendations in the Affordable Housing Plan that was adopted unanimously by the Town Council just a little over 3 years ago. So the bottom line, in my view, is in order to form the most effective board, excuse me, we need to look across all eligible candidates to fill these 3 expired seats, including our 2 incumbent candidates and the 9 new candidates. So I think that's what we're engaged in right now. So
right.
just wanted to put those comments in.
Are there any questions regarding the applicants?
So can I say a couple words about one of the applicants?
Sure.
Patricia Birch. Full disclosure, I know Patricia. She's the CEO of Habitat Wake. I have worked with her on Habitat Wake's advocacy committee. She has deep experience in all aspects of affordable housing production. She has 17 years of experience, and 16 of those were in Birmingham, Alabama, where she worked her way up the ranks from construction supervisor to CEO. And she is very interested in looking for creative new ways to provide affordable housing. And so I think that's an important characteristic that we should consider.
Are we talking in general about people before we nominate?
Yeah, I was
or
going to
what's
ask the same.
Yeah,
Sure.
what's the
And
question, or what's the sort of role here?
I'm also interested, I mean, are we going to hear from me or Paul, or how?
Yeah, that's kind of my question.
If you would like,
sure,
if you'd like to speak,
sure.
or we can go straight into nominations.
Yeah, so about my candidacy, or my?
Sure.
Sure.
Go for it.
All right,
Yeah.
There's no specific here. It's
yeah.
Right.
what
All
do you
right.
think? Do you want your seat?
Yeah.
Do you want your seat?
No, so
Right.
I wasn't sure how this was going
Right.
to go, so I want to make sure that
We are
I
building the plane as we fly.
I
Go for
understand,
it.
and I've been a part of that those systems before too. I'll make this quick, or try to make it really quick. There's a couple of things that most of you, if not all of you, don't know about me. I grew up extremely poor. We lived in Section 8 housing my entire childhood. My sister and I never went hungry because of food stamp programs. My mother was an addict, was a drug addict and a alcoholic. She was sober 4 years out of my life. I found her dead in a motel room in Fultondale, Alabama, at 44 years old, and I was a teenager. My dad died a year before that, at 46, unrelated. And so it left me and my sister basically orphans, teenagers, with no money, no support system. I've been homeless 5 times from 2006 to 2013, just a 6 or 7 year period. Now, things are much different for me now. I'm now the CEO of 2 companies, one which you all are very familiar with, Triangle Community Coalition. It's a group of real estate practitioners focused on land use policy. So the experts to talk about these things are those individuals. And I'm glad to have their guidance on this. I've been heading up that organization for 10 years now. Another company that I've been CEO for the last 14 years is one called Southeast Nonprofit Housing. I want to share a little bit about the work that we do, because it is very pertinent to this conversation. We have a federal grant from the Department of Labor, among other grants. We have a team across 6 southeastern states. I moved our corporate office from my hometown in Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. Patricia and I know each other well, to Raleigh. And the purpose of that program is to put units on the ground every year. So we own a couple of communities in Alabama, still maintaining their subsidized apartment communities. We're acquiring one in Georgia, in Greensboro, Georgia. Hopefully we close on that by June. That's 24 extra units. It's kind of like a LIHTC deal. It's about to expire. It's a 515 property. We're going to acquire it as a nonprofit. But one of our biggest program is we provide grants to low income and the most at-risk populations, and I'm going to get into that a little bit, to make renovations to their house. I have some copies here. All of these projects, I'm going to give you one. I'm going to pass these other two over this way, and we'll pass it that way. Here's some before and after of the projects that we've done just in the last 3 months. All of these projects were done with families that live about less than an hour drive from here. We've had, I'll give you some numbers of what we've done. Since August, we've done 107 projects in 6 states, 66 of those right here in North Carolina, which have benefited 452 people. We also have a program that's an emergency assistance based. We help people with rental assistance, utility assistance. We've helped 421 people in 6 states with that, 126 of those being right here in North Carolina. So I've been doing that for 14 years. The way we run this program is so unique that it's been getting national attention. I'm now on the board of directors for the National Rural Housing Coalition out of DC, organization that's been around for at least 45 years, with the focus of putting units on the ground. With that, we have been seen as a best practice because we're using little money and we're leveraging this with other money. And so far, even back in December, so just 4 months ago, Reynolds American, their foundation gave us $50,000 to expand the program in North Carolina. There's the Virginia Tobacco Revitalization Commission in Virginia is we're in talks with them of expanding our program in Virginia to them donating $4 million to us to expand that. So not only do I have the extensive experience and knowledge on the policy side through my work with TCC at the local, and I've worked in every local government in the Triangle. I've been appointed to boards and commissions in almost every local government in the Triangle, served on the Durham Board of Adjustment for 6 years, 3 as chair. I was there, like many other places, the chair is elected by the board, not appointed. So my involvement in that is one. And then I've also got this whole other thing of putting units on the ground, helping people stay in their homes, because it's incredibly difficult to find a home. We all know that, especially in urban places, but even more in rural places. It's just the quality isn't there. So I think that I bring a different perspective that just uniquely qualified with over a decade experience in both. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
For what it's worth.
Thank you.
Paul, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, it's a little awkward serving on a board that I have to consider my own reappointment.
Right. Very awkward.
And after hearing Jacob, I don't feel nearly as qualified as I thought I did. But I started as the CEO for the Home Builders Association of Raleigh-Wake County in 2015. And I almost immediately upon getting here, housing affordability became almost a daily topic. And, on the front end of this, I'm going to say 5-6 years ago, it was kind of a secondary topic. My primary focus was to take care of the builders of new homes. And it's very few of which engage in the space of the more affordable side. And I think I've seen a real shift within the industry of recognition that this is a problem that cuts across all price points and across all demographics and across everything. And it's an enormous issue. And this has become a much bigger part of my focus and my daily tasks. I was appointed to be the co-chair of Raleigh's Affordable Housing Bond Advisory Committee, and that committee helped craft what became the affordable housing bond, the $80 million bond that was passed by 72% of Raleigh voters. And then I've been asked to remain on as co-chair of the Affordable Housing Bond Executive Committee that just kind of keeps track of how it's going. And we meet maybe once a quarter to kind of see the progress. And it's been really exciting to me. Because of my connection with the home building industry, I kind of have the ability to get the thumb on the pulse of what's going on with the industry. When this group very first started, it was my idea to take a survey of builders on the incentive packages that we were offering to make sure that they were incentivizing. Incentive zoning doesn't work if it's not enticing enough. And I think some of those survey results influenced kind of some of the nuances of what we ended up going with here. So I think I'm kind of uniquely positioned to kind of be the eyes, ears, and voice of an industry that is an important part and player of what we're trying to accomplish here. And since all this has been going on, I have been either on a committee, a task force, or an advisory board of almost every municipality in the county in their efforts to explore the problems and the solutions for the affordable housing. So with that, I kind of bring, when I came here, I came in with the perspective of what had been accomplished in Raleigh. And I could instantly look at the overall affordable housing plan of Apex and say, yeah, I recognize this is good stuff. I can see the similarities of what all the different communities are doing together and recognize common patterns and best practices. And I've been very committed to this board. I think I do bring a unique perspective, but I always try to keep it, professional and respectful. I think I've only missed, to my recollection, one meeting. So I've been very committed to this board. I think what is to be done here is not done. And I feel like my role is still relevant, so I would like to remain on.
Okay, thank you. For the record, I don't think you missed any of the meetings, at least the ones last year.
I can't recall.
Yeah.
We've been doing this since we started in the middle of the pandemic. And
Yeah, that's right.
our first couple of meetings were all Zoom and,
Kind of lost some time there.
time vacuum. Yeah.
So in other boards, what we've started with is the reappointments. So if that's of interest of this group, then I would suggest that we start there then. If we already know that we've got 2 members that are interested in being reappointed, that is consistent with what we've done in other boards. So if there's a nomination for the 2 reappointees, we can start there, and then we can move into the vacancy.
So like I said in the beginning, I think the way to get the most effective board is to take a look across all the candidates,
Sure.
including the incumbents and the new candidates. We've only really talked about one new candidate so far, and I would like to talk about at least one more. So I think that's the way to proceed, unless there are other board members that disagree with that.
I'm okay talking about more candidates. I don't see any.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts that I'd like to offer up. First of all, I appreciate my 2 colleagues here on the left for being able to eloquently describe why they're qualified. But not only that, I am a big proponent of the fact that the role that we started here. I like to see some consistency and follow through in having individuals that can sort of have started with us, at least get more than one rotation. That's a personal choice. That is Rhett's personal choice, and I've not talked about this with anybody else. But I feel like that is the least that we could do as a board, is to have some consistency, to have individuals that help get us through some really challenging times, as well as sort of be able to have some influence out in the world for us to then come back and make changes to the things that we helped. So that'll be my first offering there, is I do support the continuation of both members. I also would like to bring up, I know Dan Sargent very well. I think he is an outstanding individual. He brings a perspective to us that we may need on the board, which is, what are some impacts to rehab and things like that. Jacob has experience I obviously have some experience in that. But Dan, I think, brings that. He also is already a partner in Apex in the things that you all are doing, so that may be of benefit for him to be a member. So I'll leave that there. And then after reviewing all the individuals, I don't actually know Elena, and the only reason I know her name is because someone said hello to her earlier, and I would never have known that was her. So this is not an endorsement because I've talked to her. She will have no clue what I'm getting ready to say about her. But after sort of looking through this, Paul brings sort of that overarching message from the Home Builders Association, which I think is very well needed. But I also think that since we've established some guidance now, and we're going to now react to it, or we want to start talking about partnerships and or other things in the future, I think having a builder on this committee would be of benefit to us to have those reactions. And then the second part of that is a female builder is even more important to me personally. And so I think that would be a dynamic, person to have on the board. So with that, I'll shut up and let others talk. But I just wanted to get my opinions out.
We appreciate that.
And Elena, it's nice to meet you.
I'd like to speak on Elena as someone that does know her. And, she and her husband have a really wonderful home building company and have built some beautiful homes all around the region, but they give back too. And to date, I'm also associated with Operation Coming Home, and that's a charity that provides new homes to veterans who were severely injured in combat operations or to the families of the fallen soldiers. Elena and her team have built 3 of those homes. And either fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, her specialty seems to be building homes for the Gold Star families, the families of the fallen soldiers. And she's got a really great special connection with the ladies the recipients of those homes. And those homes are given to those recipients mortgage free. So that means that Elena and her team had to, get their vendors to either donate or give a discount on everything, and what's not paid for, they paid for. So they're putting their money where their mouth is. Elena was also responsible for the construction of 15 tiny homes in Chatham County at a place called the Farms at Penny Lane. And it's specialty homes. That whole project is kind of a specialty farm for people with mental disabilities. It's through a UNC project. All those homes were 410 square feet. And you walk in it, you'd never believe it was only 410 square feet. It's amazing. That again was, Elena putting her money and her talents where her heart is. And as Rhett said, and Phil kind of alluded to, Elena is part of someone who actually is out there doing the work and building the houses, and I think can provide this board with realistic kind of economic and financial information that's important to us understand on, how things can get built, how things can get built. And so I would say that Elena is unique among builders in that they have made it a part of their business to really embrace this affordable housing space.
She's also a resident of Apex, I realize, so that also helps.
You could
right?
literally walk to her house from here without breaking a sweat.
So, we'll do that afterwards.
I'll echo what Brett said in the beginning of having the continuity on the board. I think is really important. We're still new. This is still a new group, and it's still, forming norming. So we're still norming, I think. So to have Paul and Jacob be able to continue, that they want to continue, is wonderful, and to have that continuity, I think, is really important. As for the other applicants, I don't know them. What I read, I'm glad I don't have to make that final decision, because I think we have some wonderfully qualified applicants. And certainly what I've just heard from Alana is amazing. What I know of Dan Sargent is great. So I'm here to support our 2 incumbents and hopefully another group.
Okay.
Do you mind if I say a few? I looked over the applications that were sent, I guess, last week over to us. Elena is certainly, I definitely support that decision. Paul had many good reasons. Also, just Jason Barron has a lot of experience in housing world. So does Patricia. And if I was to rank them, I'd really put, Elena at the top with Patricia and Jason tied for the second or so. And that's how I'm feeling about that.
Okay.
If that matters.
Actually, Tina and Audra, feel free to chime in. I know you don't have the privilege of voting, but you certainly have the privilege of, and I know some of you especially, well, both of you have some experience with Jason appearing before the planning board and the town council and so forth, so.
True. My only concern with Jason is that he may be stretching himself a little bit because he is on Wake Counties as well and a host of other types of boards. So I would be hesitant in that respect. Looking through these applications, we've got a lot of great people that are wanting to join this board for good reason, right? We're doing some great things here. So, and my thought in looking through these is Patricia, Elena, and Dan Sargent, I think would be amazing people to put forward as potential candidates here. In addition to you two as well. So we have a kind of a pool range of 5. That's just fine. Any ideas?
I was having a hard time ranking, and am not in disagreement with any of the folks that have been put forward, as well as this is not one where I'm going to, having sat on the planning board and having looked through those applications, I felt differently as I looked at these, and felt like I would feel good sitting next to any of them. So hearing what some of the conversation has been, agree with that. And I don't have a recommendation. I'm good with everything I've heard thus far, but I just want to name that this is the inaugural board and starting during Zoom. That's real. And so I just want to name that if we, I don't know when council will be voting, but naming that this is the inaugural board and that is kind of an important thing to name. We worked through some very challenging pieces, whether it was through Zoom or, pulling together the incentive package, to coming back together again in person. We've done a lot of great work together, and through the challenging conversations to the not so challenging conversations, it's been really great to work with all of you.
I have one more. This is a question, maybe to you, or go ahead.
Can we let Val speak?
Oh, yeah,
She's the only
sorry,
one
sorry.
of the group that has not spoken, so I just wanted to make sure that we didn't forget.
Just very briefly, I really would like for the women to serve. I don't come from this area of this field, but I feel that there's an important introducing the female. Women are so fundamental to homes and to families, and most builders are men. So I do not know you, but I had circled your name after I had zero personal connection. I love the idea. I love the idea that we bring someone who I feel similarly to everyone that the continuity is important. Besides, you all have this. I mean, I'm ready to walk out of here. It's like, I don't know. And you guys are amazing, but I feel that way. I feel that continuity. This is something that we are trying to come out with a vision because it is the inaugural board, so there's not much path. But I do feel very, very strongly that somebody who is on the ground doing the work, it is ultimately very, very important. Not only experiences in the boards or, all of that. I have experience in completely different things, but somebody who does the work, we need to have someone like Lena or some other builder, but I had picked her.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So sorry.
No, you're okay.
I get excited sometimes.
We do too.
So my question is, and just because I don't know the makeup of other boards, but is this size that we currently have the standard size? Is there an option for council or the mayor and council to expand the board? What are the answers to those kinds of things?
There was a specific reason why we picked this amount, and it's
Cool.
because it's easier to have a conversation
Right, okay.
and easier to get input from everybody like this. Whenever you expand it even farther, it begins to really be difficult to have back and forth conversations and get everybody's opinion on everything, because it just becomes so encumbered with different opinions. So,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that's.
You'll be surprised to hear I might push back a little. Just in that, I think, yes, exactly, to what the councilwoman has said. And I think that there could be a case made if we feel like we are missing something that we need, that if we did not have that extra seat, that is important to have. So I just want to name that I think that that would be an important thing to take to council. So I absolutely agree with that, and there does become a point in which it gets challenging, but I do want to name that sometimes you also really need that seat, that person, that voice that isn't represented here, and that all these voices are needed as well. I'm not saying that one way or the other in this particular situation, but I just want to name that if you're thinking in that terms.
Yeah, I've actually thought about that as well. And the difficulty is that you don't typically add one person to an odd numbered board, you typically add two.
Right.
And so we would jump from, what we have now, from 7 to 9. Well, really 9 to 11 if you count the
Right.
members, right? So it does become difficult. But let me just make one point. The voice that I think we're missing here is the voice of the person that lives in an affordable home and can say what a difference it makes in their life and and in general. I think that's missing. But again, we wouldn't be adding just one. We'd be
I actually would say that would be an argument to add one
and still have an even number.
and have an even number.
Yeah. Well,
I would make that argument.
yeah. So because it's going to take a UDO change, as I understand it, I would say that we kind of maybe put that on an agenda for the coming year and think about that and talk about whether we want to reconstitute at the end of this year, as opposed to doing that. Then we're really, we're putting the wings on the plane at the same time we're trying to fly, I think.
Well, I mean, you have to be thoughtful about what does that mean, right? Like, what does that mean to engage with an individual, and whether it's the time, whether it's the supports, how do we ensure that the table is welcoming, that their voice is equally represented, because they are bringing just as much expertise as any one of us sitting at this table. And so they would need to we would need to ensure that the table is welcoming for them.
Absolutely. Yep. I totally agree with that. So if I could make I know you're anxious to move on here, and I am too.
We've got some other
I am
things on
too.
the agenda.
But I feel like I need to add one more thing about Elena.
Sure.
Because when I saw her on the list of interested parties, I started doing a little research, and I was really intrigued by what I saw. And full disclosure, I actually had a really good conversation with Elena, and I would point out a couple things. One is the reason she applied is because the mayor met her at a particular event. I think it was Weaver's Grove, and that was a really interesting development where there were 100 Habitat homes and I think 30 or 40 homes by Garmin. That's the kind of innovative, creative approach to affordable housing I think we really, really need. So that's number one. Number two is, yes, she is passionate about the role of women in the building industry. In fact, she runs a blog called Building Like a Girl, and that's what it's called. I'm not saying that, that's what it's called. she understands the need for affordable housing because she actually developed a subsidiary for Garmin Homes, which is called Fresh Paint, which is specifically to develop affordable homes. So I just want to put that out there. I think that's important background to have when we go through the process of voting for candidates.
Sure. So I think at this time, everybody's spoken. What I've heard is it's a consensus. I won't necessarily say unanimous, but it sounds like there's consensus to move forward with the two that are eligible for reappointment. Would that be an accurate statement?
Why do you keep doing this? Why can't we just vote on, because we have up to 5 people, so.
Because everyone else on the board has expressed an interest of being reappointing the two that are interested in being reappointed.
Okay, so
So that's my first question, is regarding the reappointments, because I've heard from every member, the non-voting and the voting, that are interested in continuity. So they're interested in the two that are eligible for reappointment to be reappointed. Then the second action will be to rank choice the 3 candidates that have been mentioned related to the vacancy. Is there any objection to that process?
No.
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 Okay. Okay.
but that's okay. I'm very comfortable dissenting with the majority.
Okay. Okay. So do we have a motion to recommend the 2 that are eligible for reappointment?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
Thank you for making that motion, because it would have been awkward if we had.
Right.
Well, if we're being honest, the whole thing is awkward.
Thank you.
I'm really awkward right now. I feel awkward, but
Now we've got 3 names that have been mentioned. I'll just repeat them. Jason Barron, 4. Jason Barron, Patricia Birch, Elena Money, and Dan Sargent. Are there any others? Okay.
You want to just name the others, just so people know?
The others that weren't?
The others are there on the list.
Were there others that were mentioned that I missed?
No, they're on the list in the packet.
Okay, all right.
That is your nominee ballot. If you will, in rank order, put how you would rank those candidates.
And again, this would not include us.
Correct,
Is that
no.
okay? All right.
Uh,
Because I would have put myself at the top, just
There you go.
in case there's any. Okay.
No, this would not include. So this would include the 4 names that were mentioned. Again, Jason Barron, and this is in alphabetical order. Jason Barron, Patricia Birch, Elena Money, and Dan Sargent. If you will print and sign, I will take those up.
we don't need to do anything with round 1 selection, right?
No, because you're ranking them. And we'll leave it up to the mayor. Obviously, your first choice will be who you want first.
Probably did it wrong. Then. Okay, cool. Thank you, sir.
Yep, not us. It's kind of nice not to have a stake in that way.
I know.
Stake in other ways, just not in that way.
Did I get? Okay, so I'll read out the first nominees. We've got Patricia Birch by Phil Welch. We've got Elena Money by Valerie. We've got Elena Money by Paul Kane. We've got Elena Money by by Molly Rogers. Elena by Rhett Fussell. And Elena by Jacob Rogers. So that is 5 for Elena and 1 for Patricia Birch. Any questions?
When will council be voting?
Tuesday, the 12th.
So I thought we were going to do more than just one. I thought we were going to do 2 or 3.
Well, we'll have the ones that come up in the second round, but I mean, there was unanimous consensus for Elena Munning.
Okay, all right. So the mayor will see the rank
Yep.
orderings that were put out there.
He will.
Okay.
Hey, Phil, mind if I ask a question? Not about the same about nominations. I was wondering, are we gonna, will we have Audra, or will you continue being the council appointee, or
Yeah,
I was
I
wondering
should've
about from the
mentioned
planning
that.
board too?
Yes.
Yes.
More than likely.
More than likely? Okay. I was just nominated as chair of planning board, so I think so.
Okay, thank y'all. I think each of you have my contact information, so we'll certainly welcome any feedback that you have regarding this process. Obviously, I know it's awkward, so if you have other suggestions, we would love to hear them.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
That's democracy at work. No. Election day all around.
Okay, next on the agenda is the Community Development and Neighborhood Connections Department update by Director Newman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
Okay, so I have, of course, a few updates regarding staff. And what I'd like to do is take a couple of moments to tell you a little bit about our team. The most recent addition is, as of yesterday, we now have a housing program manager. I will read a little bit about him and ask him to stand when I complete my reading. So B. Lamont Taylor is, like I said, our housing program manager. He has over 24 years of North Carolina local government experience. He is the former assistant director for community development in the city of Raleigh's Housing and Neighborhoods Department, where he led community, affordable housing, small business development, and homeless initiatives. Prior to joining the city of Raleigh, he led the grants, finance, and administrative division of the city of Greensboro Neighborhood Development Department, overseeing federal HUD program administration, community development, and homelessness prevention. Lamont began his career in public service with the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. In 2001, his career pivoted to work in local government with the city of Durham, where he oversaw the city's cash management and investment portfolio. During his 14-year tenure, he served in other roles in the police and the community development departments, ultimately leading to his work in housing and community development. Lamont earned a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte and is a certified housing finance development professional. He currently serves on the board of directors for the National Community Development Association. He is a native of Durham. He is an avid runner. He plans to run in the Chicago Marathon in October. He's an amateur chef and an active member of St. Philip's Episcopal Church and Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So Lamont, if you would please stand.
Awesome.
Welcome.
We have also completed our housing staff with the onboarding of a housing specialist. Her name is Rebecca Schamberger. She formerly also worked for the city of Raleigh. I'm probably on their hit list about now, but anyway.
we know what City of Raleigh's about to say.
She worked as a community development coordinator within the Department of Housing and Neighborhoods. While in this position, she managed emergency solutions grant funds and community development block grant public services funds for nonprofits throughout the city that provided services to those experiencing homelessness. Prior to her work in Raleigh, Rebecca also interned with the City of Gastonia's Department of Housing and Community Engagement, helping the department with policies pertaining to down payment assistance and affordable rental gap financing. Before making the transition into housing, Rebecca worked in youth development with the Charlotte-based nonprofit, the Arts Empowerment Project, and also worked in education with Moore County Schools. Rebecca received her Master's of Public Administration from North Carolina State University and a Bachelor's of Music from East Carolina University. Rebecca? We have a couple of, let's see here, yes, we have another 2 staff members that I'd also like to introduce to you. The first I will introduce is, turn off my pages here, Breanne Gill. Breanne began her career managing events that supported talent development, emerging business operations and development, and business growth as the membership engagement manager and events manager for the Greater Raleigh Chamber of Commerce. Breanne then served as the town of Morrisville's community relations liaison, where she was responsible for developing and delivering programs to support resident and business education and engagement concerning the town's departments, programs, events, and projects. Immediately prior to joining Team Apex, Breanne served as a community relations analyst for the City of Raleigh's Housing and Neighborhoods Department. Breanne has a passion for building and growing trusting and sustainable relationships with community members and connecting them to town services while encouraging members to stay engaged within their neighborhoods and community. Breanne is excited to join our team and looks forward to serving as a bridge builder between our town services and the town of Apex community. So as you might imagine, Breanne is our community engagement manager.
Man, the city of Raleigh hates you.
And just one final note on Breanne, she's a Raleigh native. She's a graduate of North Carolina Central University. She holds a degree in political science with a specialization in communications. And she also holds her MPA from North Carolina Central University, making her a proud double eagle. And the next person I'd like to introduce to you is who will run our Community Connection Center. So she's our new Community Connection Center manager. That's the 311 program that we'll be instituting soon. Darla Bryant. Darla is a leadership professional and experienced and enthusiastic manager of change who recently located from Southern California to the town of Apex to be closer to her grandchildren. So we kind of hit the jackpot. The grandbabies were here and that was the draw and we pulled her in.
And Raleigh doesn't hate us anymore.
At least for this one. But to join our team here, Darla ended a 24-year career with Southern California Gas Company, where she held many leadership positions in the Customer Contact Center, or their call center, as well as significant roles executing community outreach and change management. Darla is looking forward to applying her customer service background and passion for people to this new role. A huge proponent of work-life balance, she is also a board member of the Fatherhood Support Network and an active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. She prioritizes giving back to her community through these two organizations and enjoys being able to contribute her talents with organizing resources, turning possibilities into tangible plans, and punctually achieving goals for the greater good. Darla holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Organizational Management from California Baptist University and a Master of Science degree in Leadership and Management from the University of La Verne. Darla has also completed doctoral studies in Organizational Leadership, ABD, all but the dissertation, from the University of La Verne and holds a certification in Change Management from PROCE. Darla?
Welcome.
So we have a full crew now, and I am excited to be here. So basically, Lamont was my 6-month anniversary present. So I officially have made it through probation. My 6-month anniversary was yesterday, and he was my gift. So I am thrilled. We will be adding more team members over the coming months. Our community engagement arm will add a community engagement coordinator. We will also start the process of adding some of our customer service representatives. In the early stage, we'll do one as we actually start to build out the infrastructure of the call center. And then into the next fiscal year, we'll add a couple additional agents with the goal of having the call center open by January of next year. So we're on a fast track. Everyone has hit the ground running. And to kind of borrow a phrase from Brianne, super excited to be here. So thank you for indulging me as I read those bios for you. I think that was probably one of the biggest things to share, is that we're staffing up and we're starting to build ourselves into a really dynamic team. We have recently received responses back to a request for proposal where we were looking for a consulting team to help us go through our own strategic planning processes so that we as a department can establish our vision and mission and goals and some actual strategies for how we will build and operate over the coming years. So we hope to do that process in April, and there'll be more information to come when we come together again in June, but there'll be other information that will flow to you over the coming months. So the last item that I have that I wanted to visit with you about is actually how we go about providing documentation and information to you all, getting feedback, and the like. I know that in December, leading up to that meeting, for instance, we had a draft of the annual housing report. We sent that ahead before the meeting as part of your packet with the idea that we would come to the meeting, discuss the contents of the draft. And then if you'll recall, as we concluded that particular segment, we also said we would give a couple of weeks after that for any additional comments or feedback. And we may have had one board member who might not have been here at the time, but that would have also given that individual an opportunity to weigh in. What I need to understand is if that process works for you, or if you'd like to have a different process by which you receive any recommended changes to policies or documents or guidelines, so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page and everyone is fully able to communicate any thoughts or concerns or feedback to staff, so that staff can fully take that in and then bring it back to you as a body. So I'm open to guidance and suggestions.
Tina, would you like to speak to
that? So my preference was that items come to us in its fullest, to its most complete as possible from staff. And then the board have a robust conversation. I mean, we just went through a conversation on the different skill sets that some of us bring, but we all bring such different skill sets, different perspective, coming from a different lens. I think it's really critical that we have the conversation and are then able to have that in a transparent manner, so that folks who are watching us on YouTube or who are here in the audience are able to understand where we land and how we land. And so then you would take that feedback and incorporate it back to then send to council, in which council will then have their own conversations around feedback that we give, that's either incorporated or not based on consensus and voting. But they will at least be able to view and incorporate our conversations into their decisions. And again, which the public and our neighbors in Apex have an opportunity to weigh in. So I felt really strongly that the process needs to be as open as possible.
Yeah, I like the idea of, like, if we get the materials in time to look over them, we have the debates here and we talk about, what our perspectives are and give any feedback. If there's any like if you take the feedback and make changes and then immediately give it to council, that's fine. But if there are any changes outside of, like if someone's giving feedback outside of a meeting, I think it would be a good idea to bring it back to us so that we can talk about that before then sending it to council. That makes the process as transparent as possible, like you were talking about, so.
So the only comment, I understand everything that both of you said. The only comment I would have is that having quarterly meetings means that doing exactly what you said, Audra, I understand it, but it means then it delays it another 3 months. Unless we have a special meeting, which we've tried, and we generally have a really difficult time of finding a mutually agreeable date and time. So I'm just wondering whether there's any kind of way that we can take advantage of some of the electronic technology at our disposal, have people actually submit comments, circulate them, and get some, I totally understand the value of, discussing among the board members. We'll still do that, but I think there can be some follow-up comments that we circulate and comment on without having to wait 3 months. That's my.
I want to give a real life example. I understand that this may be a challenging concept to understand in abstract. The Housing Advisory Board, before it existed as a board, when the initial recommendations came down and it was being voted on, it was around the time that the new planning board was being sworn in. This was happening around that time. Mm-hmm. And one of my fellow planning board members was like, oh, I should have pulled it. He was like, oh, if we change this shall to will, right? Like that changes the meaning entirely, right? You change one word in the housing, in the housing proposal, the affordable housing proposal, it would have changed the entire meaning. That was very carefully thought through and heavily discussed by yourself and all parties that were part of pulling it together. And the housing, it was a thick document, right? We all had to review it beforehand. And so to change that one word, while seemed simple, while seemed awfully like just, if we just, and the intent, I don't want to read too much into because it was not me. I do not think it was a malintent, but it drastically would have changed what came to us as a board. And the suggestion was made by email. And so it would have gone, if I didn't see it, if I didn't catch it, because I'm just a citizen, I'm just a volunteer, and this isn't my day job. And so if I wouldn't have seen it, sort of caught it offhand, it would have just gone through and it would have gone to council like that. So I cannot stress enough how important it is that we do everything out in the public. And I'm going to tell you, I serve on several state boards, I serve on several national boards, and the packets I get are notebook size thick. So it is a commitment to serve on a board. I heard several folks share their board experience. Notebooks, 3-inch notebook binder thick of information. And yes, it does take time to do that, which is why I'm selective about where I put my time and energy, and I encourage other folks to do the same. But if we do not have time to examine the materials, then maybe decide to contribute to the town in another capacity, this would not be the avenue. I cannot stress how critically important it is that our business is done out in the open.
I realize it slows it down, Phil, but it is really, really, really important to do it that way.
Okay, so I'm hearing what you guys say, both of you. And so what I would suggest is that we really need to seriously consider having meetings, regular meetings, more often than every 3 months. Because we had a situation with this particular meeting where we had a couple of fairly important items, actually 3, I'll be talking about that in a minute, that were not quite ready, at least according to the staff, and I had to trust that they were right. And as a result, we're not going to be able to get to them until June. And that's too long. In my view, there are people, living in tents that need our help to get homes. And so it's an urgent situation. So I accept what you're saying. Then the solution would be to meet more frequently, and we'll see how that goes.
And I don't think special meetings are the answer. If you are proposing that we consider another meeting schedule, I think that is absolutely fair. I don't have any outright objection to that. I would say that no offense to staff, It is critical that the materials are ready for us to be able to review. That is the bottom line. And so if that means we do need to push things off till June and we don't meet, that's one thing to consider. If it means that we meet more frequently, like, I don't know if meeting more frequently is going to solve that problem. That is another problem that we need to surface and that we need to have conversation about. We have a whole new staff, which is great, which I think will contribute to that, but that is another concern. And I cannot stress enough that having things out in the open is critical. And for those who maybe not are aware, there were conversations that were happening about me serving on the planning board that were happening behind closed doors. Transparency is key.
I'm hearing there's
Transparency
conversations
in
about me serving on this board happening behind closed doors. But I think doesn't that happen?
I am for transparency. That's
I am too. I agree.
That's all I can say.
100%.
Like, it's
Okay.
and why I
100%.
encouraged you to take your thoughts and feedback on the process to council, so that when council is considering it, they are considering all aspects. I believe that everything should be out of it. The town of Apex is not the United States of America. We can have public conversations. This is not hard. And again, I serve on state and national boards where this is done. It is a lot of work on the board. It is a lot of work on staff to be prepared. We need to figure out what that balance is, because I'm going to tell you, I have a board meeting in 2 weeks from today. I'm choosing to be here and be present and be here as much as I can. I have slight emergencies going on, but be here and be present as much as I can. And we all have to kind of figure out what that balance is. And I don't know what it looks like. I will look to staff and go, do we need to have more frequent meetings? What do we need? But whatever it is, I strongly believe it needs to happen in the public.
Okay, thank you.
Jake.
Thank you. Any other comments for
Jacob.
Director Newman? Oh, sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
there's a whole other board down here too. I guess I'm having a hard time understanding what the issue at hand is. And I'm an idiot. I mean, I get it. I'm just trying to. What's the issue still? Are we not getting the materials in time?
Well, there are different layers to the issue. One of the layers is getting the information to the board in a timely fashion. And I think what we just went through here, getting the information on February 29th, that, to me, I think that was sufficient time for us to take a look. There's a couple business days, a couple weekend days in there. So that was fine. The issue was that what the staff had proposed was to present those couple of items, get discussion, and this is my understanding, so you can step in and correct me if I'm wrong, and then at the end of that, to give like 2 or 3 weeks after the board meeting to give comments. And at that point,
From the board?
from individual board members. So,
Then I would be too. I would hope that I've got. I mean, I only was prepared to talk about what's on this agenda.
well, but
Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?
I'll be talking, if you want to press it and you're looking
Yeah.
at future agenda topics, as far as I'm concerned, every one of those should have been on today's agenda. And in fact, I know for sure 2 were going to be, but then they were pulled at the last minute. And it was frustrating to me. And the reason was, well, we don't want to have people commenting after the meeting individually. And I totally understand what Tina is saying. She's obviously really, really, really serious about this, and I understand that. So, but then the problem is, then you're waiting 3 months to really, take care of those items. That, to me, if I was in a corporation, this was going on, it would be like, okay, you're out of here.
One of the things that, thinking about that, I mean, it's a staffing issue, it sounds like, and the team is built up now. I kind of feel like that would be, that issue would be probably fixed in the next 3 months.
I'm certainly hoping that.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't know. Yeah, I really, just my 2 cents for what it's worth. Like, I'm a little worried about adding. I agree with Councilmember and Tina about adding additional meetings. I'm worried that may just put more pressures on them to and that may create more deadlines that we may
There
not
is
be able
definitely a
to
balance,
do.
I understand.
Yeah, just my thoughts.
Yep, I got it, yep. Okay, any other comments from either side of the podium here?
Yeah, well, I mean, the pace of government, right? Yeah, you have to get used to it. That's something that I've had 6 years now to get used to. And it can be very difficult at times. I definitely, there are things that I want to see faster than I see. But I also have to take a step back and realize that staff is functioning at max capacity.
Yes.
They have a lot on their plate, and it's not just the housing related stuff, it's so much other stuff too. So I would just say, give them grace. Let them work this out. And I think over these next 3 to 6 months, we might see some changes, because now she has a staff helping her with this stuff. So my suggestion is not to change what we're doing as far as scheduling, but to be a bit more patient about, yes, we do have to wait longer, but I'm used to that.
Yes.
But we've got great staff to help out now, so I think we're heading in the right direction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
No pressure for all of you that literally no pressure.
And want to
back to Raleigh.
this is the inaugural board, like as it sits. The fact that we are just now coming out of the approved incentive zoning, and like I am with you, Phil, on urgency. I work in maternal health where we talk about life and death. So I am with you. I am the person normally sitting in your seat going, we are moving fast enough. And there is the pace that we can actually move.
Okay, can we thank Director Newman?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And welcome to the staff and to Michael. Yes.
Yep, Michael has help, and we have leadership at the helm of that housing division and the other 2 divisions. So you'll be seeing more in the coming months.
So is there anybody left in Raleigh's neighborhood and housing?
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Talk about offline conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have a housing programs update by the senior
right.
housing specialist.
That's right. And for those of you who don't know, I used to work at the City of Raleigh Housing.
I was gonna say, I chased him away. He was in charge of Idlewild. I chased him away from that project. So
Yeah, so I got to know Red a little bit and Paul just a little bit as well. So, yeah, good stuff. Thanks for your time today. Just general housing programs update. For those viewing at home, I'm Michael Linsenmeyer, Senior Housing Specialist in the Community Development Neighborhood Connections Department. We've got, 7 items to discuss, so I'll try and get through them rather quickly. First item, the Housing Development Dashboard that was made available to the public on February 9th and can be found on the CDNC Department webpage. So thank you all for your input and review in that. Also, sorry you didn't see me in December. I was very sick and couldn't make it.
You're feeling better.
I'm feeling much better. I was sick for a while, but I'm doing well. The second item, is there any discussion around the dashboard? Any questions?
Excited. Thank you. Great work.
Well, I mean, all the credit should go to the planning GIS team. I mean, we had, housing staff had input when they, requested it, but all the development was them. So,
Pass on our thanks.
Yes.
yeah, they're great.
So speaking of regional cooperation, one of the things I did as soon as I got the link to the dashboard was I sent it to Morgan Mansa, who used to be with the town of Cary, is now with Wake County. And she was very interested to get it. And I think there's going to be more interest in our region. And the benefit of being first out of the gate on something like this is that then there's a template for other folks to follow, even the county. And so I think that's huge. And it's also a great feather in our, Apex's cap to do that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think it's something that we should all be proud of.
Yep. Yep.
All right, the next item is the fiscal year 23 annual housing report that was made available to the public on January 29th and can also be found on the CDNC website. Thanks again for your input on that. I presented that to the town council at their retreat on February 15th. Ms. Killingsworth, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that or?
It was great. Thank you. We appreciate all the information on it.
Yeah, that was a good discussion.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely.
All right, on to the Apex Affordable Housing Plan update. We issued an RFP January 31st, asking that proposals be due March 14th. That RFP can be found on the town's bids and proposals website. We have not received any proposals, but we've received interest from several consulting firms. So looking forward to that, including the one who wrote the original plan, HR&A Advisors. If you'd like me to, I can read the project description from the RFP. If anybody's interested, sure.
That would be.
Sure. So the project description on the Affordable Housing Plan Update RFP is that the town of Apex, North Carolina is seeking the services of a qualified firm or team of firms to provide professional services to update the town of Apex 2021 Affordable Housing Plan and create a strategic housing development and neighborhood revitalization plan. The Affordable Housing Plan should include an action plan that establishes recommended housing tenure types, priority locations, and financing tools to facilitate development and preservation over the next 5 years. The plan will address the town's entire planning area.
If I could just add, one of the things we really want to stress in that is not just a development plan for new units, but also a preservation strategy so that we can maintain the units that we have, especially those that might be considered naturally occurring affordable housing. So the requirement is both a development plan and a preservation strategy.
That's good.
Cool. All right, moving on to owner-occupied housing rehab. We've dispersed $100,000 to Rebuilding Together of the Triangle so far this fiscal year. All-time completed rehabs is now up to 30. In the current fiscal year, July 1st, 23 to June 30th, 24, we've completed 5 rehabs. We have 2 active projects. I worked with RTT and their staff to analyze the average cost per project, and we came up with the number of $25,902.08, which exceeds the $20,000 project cap as stipulated by the Apex Cares guidelines. We extended the contract with RTT until the end of this current fiscal year. It was set to expire in February, so we wanted to make sure we didn't lose any service delivery. We have a second RFP out for program administrative services. That was issued February 5th. Proposals are due March 29th. That can also be found on the town's bids and proposals website. We have not received any proposals yet, but we have interest from Rebuilding Together the Triangle, who's the current program administrator.
So that's 2 RFPs under the homeowner rehabilitation.
Just one under the owner-occupied rehabilitation services. The other is for the Affordable Housing Plan update.
Okay. So you didn't split out the administrative piece. I thought I was hearing that you were splitting out the administrative piece.
For the owner-occupied rehabilitation services, yes.
So that's a second one.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, sticking with Apex Cares, we are drafting some enhancements to the program guidelines. We'll have those ahead of the June 4th meeting for public discussion. We will make sure we get those documents to you well in advance so you can come prepared to talk about them. Apex Cares will be the overarching brand with separate programs for owner-occupied rehab, down payment assistance, weatherization, and potential architectural barriers for accessibility. Moving on to the housing fair. Scheduled for Saturday, April 27th, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be a 3-pronged housing fair. The first is that we'll have a volunteer activity to run concurrently with Think Apex Day. Rebuilding Together the Triangle will be helping us facilitate volunteer activities. It's mainly going to be a community cleanup in the Justice Heights area, doing some landscaping, maybe some painting, things like that. So we want to contribute in that way. We'll have 2 educational workshops in Town Hall. The first one will be Becoming a Homeowner by Truist Bank at 10 a.m. And the second will be Fair Housing and Eviction Prevention by the NC Human Relations Commission at 11:30 a.m. Those are supposed to run about an hour. And the fair itself will be in the town campus courtyard. So far, we've received 20 vendor confirmations out of approximately 35 invitations. Vendors across both public and private sectors will include lenders with first-time homebuyer programs, housing counseling, public first-time homebuyer programs, lenders, home rehabilitation services, homelessness prevention, fair housing, and other advocacy groups. So we will be scheduling another planning committee meeting in the coming weeks to finalize what it is exactly we'll be doing, and look forward to hopefully seeing some of you all there.
So I'm just wondering whether it would be helpful to let the board members know what agencies or vendors have signed up so far, so that if there are any gaps, you have some lead time to, invite those.
Absolutely. What would be the best method to deliver that? Because I can read them from my computer. I don't have them memorized, but
Yeah, no,
Email them out to us?
yeah, I can email them out to you. I mean, we've already got NCHFA, DHIC, all the.
You've got a good list.
We've got a really good
I'm
list.
not criticizing the list. I'm just,
Yeah.
what I found with the home repair fair was I knew of about 3, and then all of a sudden I knew of, 4 more that I had never heard of before. But that's okay. I don't, but I think with this group, again, the value of all of our areas of expertise and contacts and so forth is that we might be able to scare up a couple more.
Sounds good.
Okay.
I have a question. What's the intended audience of the housing fair? Who do you want to bring there?
Anyone who's in need of any type of housing service, right?
Like all of us? Like, I mean,
Literally everybody. Yeah. Folks who are looking to purchase a home but may have, entry barriers. A lot of people, they can afford the monthly payment, but they can't afford down payment. So we want to bring together the agencies in the area that offer first-time homebuyer services. Of course, we'll have lenders there as well. So mortgage officers from a few different lenders is the goal. Advocacy groups, folks who are, maybe experiencing a fair housing situation, facing eviction, that kind of thing. Let's see, anyone who needs home rehabilitation services but can't quite afford it, which was the goal of the home repair fair last year. Marla, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or?
No, yeah, I think you got it.
I'm wondering if there'll
Yeah.
be kids' activities, and then I will explicitly maybe encourage reaching out to Home Depot and see if they might be interested in coming out. They have, well, I don't know if they have like these Saturday workshops with, build a thing with kids. Wondering if they might be willing to come out and set up.
Yeah, we talked about that quite a bit, actually.
We went to Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yeah.
And they said no.
They prefer pretty much to do things in-house now rather than coming out like they used to.
Got it.
Because actually our hope had been that they could facilitate a small DIY workshop for folks so that they could learn how to make a few of the home repairs themselves, like how to, change out the insides of the tank so your toilet doesn't run and different things like that, right? But nobody wants to come out into the community. So,
Wonder if that's staffing.
yeah,
Yeah.
If they didn't, when we had our kickoff meeting for Idlewild, we actually did have a kids event, and it was Arts Together, I think. I could look it up and find out, but they basically came out and did a paint your first home kind of thing, or so, I don't remember exactly. So that might be an option if you're,
Yeah.
yeah, if you could share that information with us,
Yeah,
that would be great.
somebody remind me if you don't hear from me in like 2 days, somebody better email me, or call me.
And I have a couple along that I'll add to the list. Just naming that, if you want folks to come out, it's helpful if we both have activities for everyone, so little kids, and then also food never hurts either.
Well,
I
we
know
do-
that might be complicated. But.
Well, no, we have done some outreach for some food trucks. So that is the intent, is to have some. One of the challenges that we have 2 things that we're kind of bumping up against. One is Think Apex Day, and that's why we're doing the project in Justice Heights, so that we can have that volunteer aspect. And as Michael mentioned, some landscaping cleanup, some minor exterior home repairs. Our fire department first there'll be some canvassing on this coming Friday, actually, with RTT, community engagement, and the fire department. So the canvassing is to identify some of the houses that are homeowners who are interested in us doing work, but also the fire department will be looking for opportunities to provide smoke detectors and CO detectors. And then they will also have some actual fire personnel on the project day to help with some of the exterior repairs and so forth. So we're really looking to have both that volunteer aspect, but because it is Think Apex Day, I know that there are some activities that will be going on that will involve young people. But then there's also a big festival going on, we just discovered today, in Raleigh. And so I think that's why some of our food truck vendors won't be able to support us.
Oh.
Yes, because we kept, what is going on? What is going on? Because we kept getting no from some of the food trucks, and then we figured out, oh, there's a huge festival in Raleigh. So
Can't you just take all the Raleigh Festival people?
Hire them.
I knew he was going to say something.
All the patrons from Raleigh.
Okay, Peak Fest is the next weekend, right? So
the following
we'll
weekend,
take everybody back there.
and we'll be present at Peak Fest as well. We will have a booth set up there too.
Do you all have any legal housing, like any attorneys or organizations? NC Justice Center?
Legal
I mean,
Aid is going
Legal
to be.
Aid coming?
Yeah.
Yes, they'll be there
All right.
along with the Human Relations. So they'll have a table as well.
NC Justice Center is fabulous with housing issues, in addition to Legal Aid. But yeah.
Yeah, so we've talked about the NC Justice Center a couple times. I don't think we've quite reached out to them yet, but
can't remember
Legal
what
Aid
the
of
gap
North
is.
Carolina, they've confirmed that they will be there.
Your former Mayor Pro Tem might be able to help you there.
Yeah, right.
Okay, with the Justice Center?
Former Mayor Pro Tem Dozier
Right.
at the Justice Center.
Okay.
Very good. One other thing before I forget, and Michael takes his seat. On the dashboard, we're also working with HRNA to do a data site on our page that really goes into a lot of housing specific data. Because if you'll recall, the dashboard we currently have is around development. So what the development projects are that are going on. We're working with HRNA to do a larger just data display so that we can look at a variety of factors that are in play and which impact our ability to provide more housing that's affordable to some of our current residents and those who want to be here. One of the interesting things about this particular production is Wake County is also working with HRNA to do the same thing. And so we'll be out the gate before Wake County will. So it'll be a little bit of a preview of what you will see after that. I think ours could be coming live within the next couple of months potentially. And they have asked us to provide some names of some individuals who might like to be part of a focus group as they build it and get it together. And so certainly we thought of you all as a potential focus group, or if any of you would prefer to be a part of that, just let us know. I'll be sharing names with HRNA in the coming days. So this will be for them to kind of roll out what the pages will look like, you know, the interactive components of it, and really getting your feedback to make sure it is very consumer friendly. And so again, if you would like to be a part of the focus group, please let us know, and we'll share your name with HRNA.
Would it be possible, I mean, would anyone object to having their name shared at this point?
And we can talk about it, or just submit your info, because they said ideally the focus group would be 8 to 10 people. So we want to make sure though that we bring some other members of the community to the table as well. So I don't know that we would want the entire HAB necessarily, but we definitely would like your participation, but we will also be kind of reaching out to some other segments of the community, potential consumers, maybe reach out to Fiesta Cristiana and some other groups, right? So, just
What
just
should we
pass
put
it
in the
along.
subject?
Pardon me?
What should we put in the subject line to alert you to the?
Focus group participants.
Yeah, just focus group, that'll work.
And would it be possible for us to see the statement of work that went to HR&A?
Sure. We have a proposal, I think, we have the proposed contract. It's with our legal department right now, but we'll be happy to get that to you.
Okay. That'd be great. Okay. Anything else for Michael?
I've got a couple more items if you're
Okay,
interested.
You have more than what was on the agenda, but that's okay.
I know, I realize that, but today I heard from the project manager at DHIC regarding Stone Glen Apartments.
Good.
3 out of, I think, 8 buildings are supposed to be coming online this month, and then the entire project construction should be completed by mid-May. So, very exciting news there.
In March, they're already taking applications, are they?
They are not accepting applications for lease up just yet. I mean, obviously their interest list is open, but the folks who are on the interest list now should be getting communication once they're ready to.
Should be getting application forms to fill out.
Yeah, soon.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yep.
That's good news.
Yep. Then the last item is incentive zoning. We're drafting some enhancements to the policy. I think maybe September is what we've earmarked for the September meeting for rolling that out. So excited about that. This current fiscal year has been kind of slow in terms of rezoning applications. Town Council has approved 2 rezoning applications with affordable housing conditions. The first is 23 CZ04 Castleberry Reserve. 2 affordable units, and then a donation to the Affordable Housing Fund. The second approved development was Seymour Mixed Use PUD, 20 affordable units for rent for 10 years at 80% AMI.
So the Castleberry one, is that under the incentive zoning process?
Could you clarify the question?
So the first one that you mentioned, I thought it was Castleberry?
Yes.
Okay. So is the developer participating in the affordable housing incentive zoning process?
Yes, 2 affordable units for sale at 135% AMI for 30 years.
Okay. So my recollection is, and I may be wrong about this, but my recollection is that there was a strong emphasis on providing either lots or homes and not providing funding. So I'm curious about that, and because the issue is, I'm familiar with what happens when you provide funding and it doesn't get used. So I thought we were very explicit in the policy saying it would either be lots or home. So I'm just curious why all of a sudden we're, maybe either Tina or Audra can explain how that happened.
It's part of, when they talk about their performa, that is the biggest thing that they discuss. So, yeah, we asked for it. We talked to them about how important certain things are, and especially affordable housing. And, they're being built. It's a lot slower than we want them to be, but yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's not the ideal outcome. And of course, staff wasn't pushing for a donation to the affordable housing. That's just something that unfolded through the negotiation.
Yeah. So the other thing having to do with the changes, the enhancements to the affordable housing incentive zoning policy is that I remember, and again, the board members can correct me, I thought we were going to do a review, evaluation or whatever, and come up with some suggested enhancements as of the anniversary of the affordable housing incentive zoning policy, which would be more like June rather than September. So is there any possibility of making that sooner? Because, I mean, it was on the agenda for today, as a matter of fact. So I don't understand why now it's pushed off 6 months.
Yeah, we are working on the draft. We came across some things that we want to, expand a little further on, particularly as it relates to sales price limits and the rent limits as well. Those are the two things I've been focusing on. The policy was adopted, I think, June 27th, so we're still within that 1 year. Of course, the September 3rd meeting will be the first HAB meeting after that anniversary.
We also wanted to have the benefit of Lamont's experience and knowledge
Right.
to help inform what we actually brought to you. So this gives us adequate time. And we felt that the Apex Cares item might have been a little bit more pressing because we do have the RFP out. We are looking at how to access additional revenues to expand those programs under the Apex Cares brand. And so kind of landing those planes together, we thought might have made a little bit more sense from the contractual standpoint since the extended contract with RTT ends the end of June. So just as we were starting to look at really what's pressing, and because that's work that's already underway with the rehab, we're anxious to look at the incentive zoning policy and really spend some time digging in, especially around non-financial incentives. So to a point that was made earlier, incentives have to incentivize. And so looking at what we currently have, what we are able to do from a financing standpoint, which is a little bit limited today, then it really is important for us to identify some robust non-financial incentives. And so that was going to take a little time. Probably, we need to collaborate with our legal department on those things that might be permissible under state law. And then come back to you with something robust. Now, by all means, if we're able to pull it together in the next couple of months so that we can get it to you, we will. That means a whole lot of reading, though, in preparation for June. But we just decided to take a step back. And like I said, Lamont has a tremendous amount of experience, and we thought he could really bring some of that to bear to help us.
So the only other thing I would mention is that I know that the folks at the UNC School of Government Development Finance Initiative have pretty good expertise, the two lawyers, Tyler Mulligan and James Joyce. So, and I know we have a contract with them. This is not covered under that, but maybe they could help in terms of the legal constructs, because I think they have a little bit more robust idea of what you can and cannot do in this particular area.
Right. Yeah. But the engagement we have with them does not cover that.
I know.
I know. So we're going to work on it,
Okay.
and definitely work with the town's attorney to kind of get us started. And to the extent, there is a need to reach out, I would probably defer to the town attorney to take that lead for us, but all things are under consideration at this juncture.
And one more point of emphasis is that we really like to focus on eliminating redundancies and cleaning up the document. It's a really long document. We want to condense it, make it very clear so that the consumer can absorb it very easily.
Okay. Any other questions for Michael?
No other questions, but there has been, when we had our retreat, there was comments about expanding the CARES program even from, council, trying to get a better, robust program going there too, and kind of easing the requirements as much as possible.
Is that
So it can be
Apex
taken
Cares
advantage-
program?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, so that.
I like that. Okay, thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you all.
All right, so I know that I'm standing between folks and the adjournment, but I did want to say a few things. I already mentioned the fact that there are a couple things that were on the original agenda that were deferred. One that we probably hasn't talked about too much so far is the report back from the Development Finance initiative on the site analysis that they've done. And I do understand that there's at least one potential town-owned property that's been identified. So, yeah. I guess my question is this urgent enough that we schedule a special meeting before June 4th to hear what the output is from a DFI? Because, you know, the original timeline that they showed back in December showed that somewhere in the March timeframe there'd be final recommendations. I mean, is that still what they're aiming for?
The contract has a deadline delivery of April, and so
April 1st?
No, I don't know the exact date, but it's not the 1st.
Okay.
They did make a presentation during the council's retreat. And so they have done some preliminary site analysis. They are currently working on the financial analysis at this point. And so they have the one town-owned property, and then there is another potential acquisition parcel that they are also examining. But the commitment was to have it completed in April. And so that's what we're looking forward to, is receiving their report in April.
Okay, so it is possible to report out to this body in April, potentially.
Potentially.
Okay, all right.
I just don't remember the date, so I'll just say like you, potentially, but.
Could that be something that's just sent to us via email once
Sure.
that report is received? That way we have time to review it.
That would be
Absolutely.
wonderful. Yeah, that'd be great. So sometime in April, that'd be great. So, you know, I've looked back at their report. That I really like their report. They said there are 770 low and moderate income renters and 650 low and moderate income homeowners with severe housing needs, which means that they're paying 50% or more of their housing income for housing, of their household income for housing. In my view, that's an urgent situation. That's not a sustainable situation to have people paying 50, 60 or more % of their income for housing. The other point that they made, and this is all from their summary on the very last page, they said housing solutions begin with defining and prioritizing local goals. I kind of thought that's what we did in our first affordable housing plan. But my question is, well, if there's any more defining of local goals, then does the Housing Advisory Board get to be a part of that defining of goals? I mean, you know, if we're in an advisory capacity, it'd be nice to provide some advice.
That would come as part of the Affordable Housing Plan update that we have the RFP out for. That's the goal of that, because that's now 3 years old. And so we know it's time to update the data, you know, take the pulse on what's been done and figure out, you know, what things we need to adjust as we go forward. But that is exactly why we are doing the request to a consulting team to help us update the plan. And you know, we've got a little experience of a few things that have worked in this short time, but we also recognize that there are some additional things that we might be able to incorporate that can kind of enhance things. You know, certainly one of the biggest considerations we have is funding. You know, that's our biggest challenge. So we have great plans and ideas and can add more. But we will have to solve for the funding situation. That is going to be our biggest barrier to really realizing some of the things that we'd like to see. Because, you know, based on the cost, especially let's take home ownership as one example, you know, we'll have to heavily subsidize some home ownership units if we want to hit certain income ranges. And currently what we have in our housing fund will not get us there if we're wanting to subsidize on the ownership side, but also be able to invest well on the rental side as gap financing. So
that's a prioritization that I think the Housing Advisory Board could weigh in on. Actually, it's in the Affordable Housing Plan very specifically, and so that's probably part of the updating process. But what I want to ask about is, re-estimating the gap in affordable homes here in Apex. There was some of that was done, pretty well in the affordable housing plan. But I still don't think that we have good quantitative estimates of what our gap is, both including people that are cost burdened. I mean, not only severely cost burdened, but just cost burdened paying more than 30% of their household income. And also, the fact that, it looks like only from the DFI report, it looks like only 7% of the people who work in Apex actually live in Apex, which means that 93% of the people have to come from outside. So that to me is a problem. And so that should be a part of the gap that we're looking to fill, not immediately, but maybe over 10 years. So I think that, when the affordable housing plan is updated, I think that needs to be on the roster of things that get looked at, because then we can say, okay, well, we've done this and we're this far towards filling the gap. That's the kind of scorecard that I think people would be interested in. I'm certainly interested in it. So the last thing I want to mention is the preservation of the manufactured home communities. I know that lot rents in our MHCs are rising fast. In one of them, the residents have seen their lot rents increased about 3 times in the last 3 years. The rents are now up to $550. In another one, the residents' lot rents have increased 4 times in the last maybe 18 to 24 months. Just this month, the rents rose to $510. A few years ago, they were $275. And by the way, that particular manufactured home community has town water and sewer, which is one of the services that typically is provided by the landlord of a manufactured home community. But that's not even the most egregious thing. The most egregious thing in my mind is that in that one particular manufactured home community, there is now a new application fee and transfer fee of $5,000, which in my mind is, these are people that have invested in their mobile home, probably $10,000 or $20,000. If you take $5,000 away from that, you're decreasing their wealth, and that's just a travesty as far as I'm concerned. And so, I could speculate about why a particular landlord might be doing that, but I won't do that publicly. On the positive side of that particular situation, the town has expressed interest in collaborating with a nonprofit organization to come together and possibly to purchase that particular manufactured home community. I hope that can take place, but again, it's right back to the financing issue that we were talking about. And there have been meetings held with the mayor and council members. I've participated in them. Beth Bordeaux has participated in them. And there is kind of a building interest in maybe undoing a recent change to the 2045 land use map, specifically regarding the manufactured home communities. Honestly, the longer term solution, I've already brought this up with the long range planning manager here, is to review the entire 2045 land use map with an eye to incorporating some of the recommendations of the affordable housing plan in the land use map. I mean, if we don't do that, we're not really implementing the vision and the values that are in the plan. And one last thing I'll leave you with, I heard recently that there is a town that is not in North Carolina, but there are other towns across the nation that are looking at something called an affordable housing overlay district. That's a very interesting possibility to me, because that might provide some encouragement to developers to develop affordable housing in a particular area. And I think that's kind of that implementing something like that, to me, would be carrying out some of that vision and value of the affordable housing plan. So I need to talk to you about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that gives me lots of red flags that go in line with redlining, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Thank you.
All I'm gonna say about that.
Thank you. I was about to say the same thing. Sounds like a,
Well, the way I was gonna put it is, if we have an overlay district for affordable housing, I would like it to encompass the entirety of Apex.
right.
Well, that's a possibility too.
So-
then you need to talk to the homeowners association out there.
Well, and we also talked, in our retreat about the possibility of becoming our own CDBG
Yes.
administrator for that program as well, because we currently rely on Wake County to administer those funds, and it would be a lot nicer for us to be able to administer them on our own and not have to worry about applying for money that we already,
We're eligible
You
for
have
the-
staff now that knows that.
Right.
Thank you, Red.
Jacob,
Did you want to say something, Jacob?
I was going to say exactly what Tina said. I'm a little worried about that.
Okay, if you have other
Final
suggestions.
moments, or is it about to close? Are you about to close it out?
I am about to close, but you want to have a final word here?
I have some minute.
You
Okay.
got something too? Do you want to go first, Paul?
I just wanted to ask if on the June meeting, if we could put on the agenda the fire sprinkler mandate that's being talked about by council. I know that in June is when things are supposed to be happening on that. They're going to have a council work session on that, and I know that staff is currently working on pulling together information to kind of help better understand the logistics and consequences of such a mandate.
Yep.
And so the current plan is that council would have a work session in early June, and then later June have a public hearing with a possible vote. So this is not a topic that we could put off till September, because it could be done by then. I do think, since we're talking about a mandate that will necessarily add thousands of dollars to all new homes, regardless of size, even Habitat homes, I think it's something that's very relevant to what this board is formed for, and I think it would be great for this board to offer some guidance and thoughts to council as they make that decision in June.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm sorry we forgot to do it for this time, but actually June might be more timely anyway.
Yeah, well, and I think the staff was awaiting some guidance from council on what types of information council wanted. They recently got that, so they wouldn't have been ready for this meeting anyway.
Okay.
So I think June's going to be the right time.
Okay, all right, good. Jacob?
I'm good.
Okay.
Chair Walsh, I would say to one of your points, that one of the things that I've been very consistently saying as on planning board, and I've said to council, is that we need to better integrate all of our different plans. So affordable housing with the, you specifically named affordable housing with the land use map, yes, but also transportation, but also, and we need to have a holistic conversation around what these mean. So to the point on the sprinklers, like what does that mean when we are trying to incorporate affordable housing and then we are requiring these other things? And so that is just a question I will constantly be saying to council. As we are thinking about, the RFP is out to update the housing plan, what does it mean as we're looking at all of the other pieces and how we should be talking about that in the community? So I put that on the September agenda. I think June is looking awfully full. But as we're thinking forward about how all of these updated plans will go, we need to be talking about them not in silos, but as overlapping priorities for the community and what it means to have potentially conflicting priorities.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest point, is every time something comes before council, it's, you have certain council members who appreciate, more the environmental pieces of things, and that has a cost to it. And then, when we're talking about affordable housing, that has a cost to it that's distributed across the community as well. So yeah, trying to get little pieces of all of that means that you're not going to get all of the affordable housing you want, and you're not going to get all the environmental things that you want. It's kind of a mix of those things. And as council, we have to be satisfied with that sometimes, instead of saying, you know, we want everything here and everything in here, and we have to put all that together. The cost would be outrageous.
Unfortunately, perfection doesn't exist, huh? Sure wish it did.
Okay, very good. Thank you all. We're finishing 2 minutes early. How about that? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Okay, we stand adjourned.